Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
Oh yeah, it's time for the payoff, Jeff. I'm Tom, the Macho Man. Healy, and you are Jeff. How the hell are you doing, Jeff?
That was pretty good.
Excited?
One of your better impressions, absolutely. Yeah,
it tailed off at the end. I do a good Macho Man, and it gets even better after a few beers.
Yeah, as it should, absolutely. So
I was wearing my Macho Man shirt. I think it was all day Friday of my bachelor party, and so most of the day I spoke in Macho Man talk.
As you should, absolutely. Yeah. So, all right, I know this is your match, buddy. Like, why do you want to cover this one?
One of my all-time favorite matches. This is pro wrestling personified. The match is awesome. The visual of these two, arguably the two most colorful characters in the history of wrestling. They're both just killing with their outfits, just awesome attire. I love the setup of WrestleMania 7. I love the way it looks with the red, white, and blue. I have said before, if you could transport me to front row for any wrestling show ever, WrestleMania 3 in the Silverdome would have been probably my number one. ECW, probably One Night Stand, would be up there. This show would be up there.
Okay.
WrestleMania 30 would be up there. So there's a handful of them. I was at King of the Ring 98, but I would have loved to have been like right where Foley got thrown off the cage. But again, I just, this is one of, whatever reasons, just one of my favorite shows ever. I was 7 years old, so I was old enough to kind of know what was going on and just loved it, man. But we'll get into the match and all that coming up. But I'm really excited to cover this one. What about you?
I'm just a big Sherry mark. I'm just here to see Sherry. That's it, you know?
Dude, it's another awesome part of this match.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And I'm not shitting you like that. Like, there's good stuff coming from there too. And so she plays a huge part in this one, rightfully so. We'll get some.
Sherry played a huge part in every match she was involved in.
Fair. Good point. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So there's a lot of controversy on this one, Jeff, because this was originally supposed to be at the LA Coliseum.
Yep.
Outdoors. 100,000 plus people, and they did not sell very many tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Differing reports out there as to how many they sold, but I think everyone would agree it was a really, really low, terrible number. So they sell no tickets. They end up having to move this into the LA Memorial Sports Arena. So there's 16,000 there. It's March 24th, 1991. Dark match of Coco Beware and the Brooklyn Brawler.
Ooh.
We open the pay-per-view up with the Rockers. Mr. WrestleMania and Marty Jannetty defeating Haku and the Barbarian, who were accompanied by Bobby Heenan in 10 minutes. The Texas Tornado would defeat Dino Bravo in 3 minutes. The British Bulldog would defeat the Warlord in 8 minutes. The Nasty Boys become tag team champions over the Hart Foundation in 12 minutes. And Jeff, you said this was supposed to be a really good match?
Yeah, that was
on our list.
We actually have this on our list, which and kind of looking at this, I actually think we need to add that Rockers match as well, too, because both of those were 3.5-star matches.
Okay. So Nasty's defeating the Hart Foundation, but what do you know? This is WrestleMania 7. Keep in mind, WrestleMania 8, Bret Hart's a singles competitor.
Yep.
So this is the end of the Hart Foundation. He's going to go on and become Intercontinental Champion, and he's going to have that WrestleMania 8 match against Roddy Piper for the IC title. WrestleMania 9, he's in the World Championship match. WrestleMania 10, he's in the World Championship match. So, this is the very end of Bret Hart as a tag team wrestler. Then we have the classic blindfold match, Jake Roberts and Rick Martel. It may sound terrible. It may sound stupid, but people loved it. It was a great angle, and it wasn't too long of a match, and that was a fun one. Then we have The Undertaker in his WrestleMania debut, defeating Jimmy Snuka. 4 minutes, big-ass scary heel. Then we have the Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage in this classic match. A tag team of, and I'm going to butcher these names, Tenru and Kidota. I can't. You usually do a better job than I do, but They would defeat Demolition, Smash, and Crush. So that version of Demolition in 4 minutes. Then we have the Big Boss Man defeating Mr. Perfect by DQ for the IC title. Earthquake defeating Greg Valentine. The Legion of Doom defeating Power and Glory in a minute. Virgil defeating Ted DiBiase by DQ. Really hot match and hot crowd. The Mountie defeating Tito Santana in a minute. And then Hulk Hogan winning his world championship back from Sergeant Slaughter in 20 minutes. So we jammed 14 matches onto this card. My God. But little bit of everything on there. A lot of fun. The Rockers match, 3.5 stars. The Nasties and the Hart Foundation, 3.5 stars. Very, very well reviewed match that we're going to cover today. By far the best match on the show. The main event only did 2.5 stars, but I thought it was fun. But I guess Slaughter was kind of gassed during that match, if I remember correctly. So big buy rate, over 500,000 buys, gross of 15 million off of pay-per-view, $29.95 for this. So, look, successful show on pay-per-view. They didn't get 100,000 into the Coliseum, but I'm excited to cover this one. Storyline standpoint, Jeff, I know there were a lot of moving pieces that got us to this match, including that classic scepter moment. So walk us through how we got to this retirement stipulation.
Yep, we will be talking about the scepter here. So, so we're going to go all the way back to WrestleMania 5, actually. And so, and kind of looking at there, Savage actually trying to get the belt after, of course, losing it at WrestleMania 5 to Hogan. And so challenging Warrior actually, to give him a shot and kind of, take him on as well too. And so you had throughout this, like Warrior he wasn't refusing, he's not going to do it. There was actually, like we said, a match between the Warrior and Slaughter at Royal Rumble 1991. During that, you had Savage, and who, of course, I've already referenced. You had Queen Sherry actually coming down to ringside and getting involved in that match as well too. You also had Sherry trying to seduce the Warrior as well too, into giving Savage a title shot as well. And so her name will come up. We will talk about her during the match. She will come up, I'm sure, playing a big part of this, as well as another woman in Macho's life who we'll save that one for a little bit here. But what you had, though, during that Rumble match was this Warrior was actually trying to beat Slaughter at that point. You had Sherry interfering. She was grabbing the Warrior. And so you had Warrior then chasing Sherry down the ramp before he ended up getting attacked by Savage at the kind of coming out of nowhere and attacking him. And so as Tom said, kind of part of this story, or part of this as well too, is you also had Slaughter in the ring, kind of distracting the referee while Savage was getting beat down by the Warrior. And so after kind of getting back into the ring, you actually had Slaughter kind of getting trying to come out on top, but then you had Warrior kind of rallying, kind of really going at Slaughter at this point. All kinds of different stuff. So Warrior actually grabbing Sherry at this point and guerrilla pressing Sherry into Savage, who, of course, also still ringside. And so what you had, though, was Slaughter hitting the knee a knee to the back of Warrior. Excuse me, I have my notes weird on this one. So you had Warrior falling to the, kind of falling in between the ropes as they do. And like you said, you had Savage then taking the Royal Scepter and smashing it over Warrior's head while he was distracted. And so, Warrior Slaughter was easy at that point. You have Warrior kind of knocked out, elbow drop, pin, and won the match and the championship. And so, with that, then, as he kind of came to, Macho and Sherry had gotten out of there, and so he came to, ran into the back, looking for Savage, figuring next steps, all that good stuff, and trying to figure out what to do. So, with that, then you had these guys kind of having a little bit of back and forth, throughout. You got to remember this was in the time that there wasn't monthly pay-per-views. And so a lot of the ability had to be on TV, either house shows or whatever it might have been. And so Rumble was really like the big thing before you got to WrestleMania back in this day. And so, but they did have a match. It was actually a steel cage match between the two of them. It was in Madison Square Garden in late January. Savage won that one. It was actually from the help of Sherry during that one. And so Warrior ended up attacking Sherry after this one because she got involved. It's your typical, I say, pull apart. Warrior had to be restrained, all that good stuff. And so, And so Warrior kind of going out on there. And so, again, just unsuccessful. The Warrior at this point, trying to get the title back. It was actually, like I said, it ended up losing actually a few steel cage matches to Slaughter again as well, too. Again, usually Sherry getting involved in these ones as well, too. And so we're just not able. So finally, it got to the point where Warrior issued the challenge. It was a retirement match for him and Savage at WrestleMania, which Savage ended up accepting. And so I don't know if you have any other notes on this one. And so it was, like I said, kind of coming out of the Rumble, this was the story they were telling. It was really good. It was tight. It was concise. Yeah, you had Slaughter involved as well, too. But really, I almost say Sherry kind of driving this story in a lot of ways, too. And so what do you got, Tom? Anything?
No, I got a lot to talk about during this match, and I'm excited to cover it. So I say we get into it.
Let's do it, man.
All right. So 1 hour, 25-minute mark of WrestleMania 7. 1 hour, 25-minute mark, WrestleMania 7. Jeff, are you ready?
I got 1 hour, 25 minutes. Let's do it.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
Bell's gone. This one underway, but both men extremely cautious.
Warrior,
Gorilla Monsoon. Yep.
You've got Savage.
Shake the rope, hit all the corners, and attack Savage.
He's got the belt on the back of his. He's got the world title on the back of his airbrush. He's pissed he's not champion.
He got back and forth. You got Macho in one corner, Warrior in the other. Yep.
Such a good look. Now we have Elizabeth watching on. So Miss Elizabeth is in the audience, even though she hasn't been involved in the storylines, and certainly not accompanying Savage down. Savage is the heel. He's with Sherry. I mean, he looks just awesome. I just love both their attires. I love the pageantry of the red, white, and blue. We talked obviously about Slaughter, and I think we'll talk more about this when we cover the match between Slaughter and Hogan, because that really, was the main storyline. But, even as far back as when Warrior was the champion, and Savage cost him the title against Slaughter, I guess, where do you stand on two things? Number one is pro wrestling using real world storylines and things happening in the news. And then the second thing is, do you feel like pro wrestling is any different than any other form of entertainment?
So twofold. One, I think that they actually should be using some of the real world stuff. I think that would appeal more to people like you and me when, because we do read. I mean, the internet exists. We're going to hear about some of those things. Can you have some characters? Yeah. I think, could you have, if you had done The Fiend right, could you still have an Undertaker type supernatural character? I don't know, maybe to that degree, if you could pull that off nowadays, but I think that like we see so many times, like they're working these real world stories into everything anyways. And so we got Sherry getting involved, taking a bump there as well too. I think that absolutely they should be involved in this stuff because it actually, as we've said, like we've called it in this show a few times, like the reality era. Like, that it's such a big part of it. And like you and I know that. So, hey, let's acknowledge these real things. Like, I think the biggest glaring example was at the start of COVID, which feels like forever ago, like it was forever ago. Like they wouldn't acknowledge it. Like, let's be real about, I get it. Like you're trying to put on a show and kind of, suspend disbelief, but like at the same time, like let's acknowledge the things that are happening around us because it's going to make for a better story. And like you have said it countless times on this show, and I've always agreed, like, let these people be themselves. And so if you start, now, yes, some of it might be a little cringy, but then also like there's a lot of it that like these stories need to be told. I think most recently, like the Dewdrop and Becky Lynch stuff, they go back like 15, 16 years. And we didn't, like, nobody knows that. Like, Becky was like, they were in like the same, like, gyms and stuff, like training. And so to not include that, it makes no sense to me because that's how I'm going to get invested. Second part, what did you ask? If it was on the same degree as other sports, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, how do you, if anything that happens in wrestling, okay, do you hold it to a different set of standards than you do other forms of entertainment? In other words,
yep,
can something happen on wrestling? Can you look at it differently than if it were to happen on an HBO show?
I'm with you. And I think I have actually, over the last like month or two, we got Savage tossing a chair into the ring. I have started looking at it differently because I'm wondering if I got to the point where I'm like, man, I just wasn't enjoying WWE. And it got to the point where I thought to myself, like, and I kind of live in my shoot job by like, if you can't spot the crazy person in the room, it's you. And I'm wondering, okay, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to change like how I'm looking at wrestling because maybe that's part of the problem is like, I'm just being so, I don't know what it is, but like bitter or just not happy, like, and maybe just that's not what I'm looking for in my wrestling right now. I don't know, but like, I think I definitely hold it to a different level, whether that's, I don't think that's necessarily right either. So
well, you bring up something interesting. So I'm just thinking, and like, this was maybe a month ago. There was something with Dan Lambert and Brandy Rhodes, and he was being such an asshole, like to the point where I was uncomfortable. And I'm like, why are you saying this stuff? Why are you doing this stuff? But then at the same time, it's like, it's scripted. They're actors. Like what? Like it's just this really, and I can't describe it, but I think you're going to know what I'm saying. And I'm sure others listening to this are going to understand it too. But it's like, we watch this so much differently. Like when I watch a football game, I know it's legitimate. When I watch Billions on Showtime, I know that it's a scripted television show. I watch this shit and it's like, your mind's like doing too much. Like I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this is fake. They're not really hitting each other. Oh, they really don't feel this way about each other. It's all fucking work. But then at the same time, you're like still watching it like it's real. And it's like, oh man, that hurt. It's the weirdest form of entertainment that exists because everything else is either fake or it's legitimate.
Yep.
This, I don't even know what this is.
Yeah. And I think that like it is. It's just
Warrior just
huge push.
Sherry on the ground.
Well, and this kind of raises the interesting point too. Like there are other matches happening out there like I think most recently you had Matt Cardona, of course, woo woo. And I said intergender, like, I don't even know if we should be calling it that nowadays, like an intergender match against Jordan Grace. And so they had a really good match. When, like, other than, like, we still talk about, what was it, the Nia Jax, Randy Orton spot? Like, I'm wondering, is that an avenue? Like, we had the mixed match, and like, it was so weird. Some of these more recent pay-per-views where you get like, the mixed tag with Beth and Edge and Miz and Maurice, and like, it slows the match down so much. Like, no, am I gonna, should Edge be popping Maurice in the face? Like, no, I'm not gonna go along with that. But like, at the same time, like there's some disbelief there that it's even hard for me to suspend, because like the scenario takes me out of the match so hard. And so like, I really need them to kind of figure that out, because it's just hard. And so like, I don't know what it is that it's going to take, like you said, it's scripted. And so give me something different. Give me, and because, a man, and I know that it's always like, well, a man can't hit a woman. And I get that, like, absolutely. But like you said, it's a scripted show. Like, and so why can't we do certain things that, like, I mean, I don't know what, I don't have the answer for what is going to fix like some of these problems that just WWE's having, like new shows or, whatever it might be. New, I don't know what it is. It's just, I don't get it.
Yeah. It's just, and part of it is self-inflicted, because it's like, the entire network is built around, this is fake. Yeah. You have all these, you have everyone that's in it. I mean, again, they have beaten us over the head so bad on their own programming and these various wrestlers. Jeff, I'm so sick of, like, I go on, Wrestling Inc. Okay. And I'm not blaming them, by the way. My point is, I go on Wrestling Inc. and it's like, Becky Lynch says this about her angle that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. Like, in real time, they're commenting about storylines.
Yes.
Like, I'm not like watching Breaking Bad and Bryan Cranston is on Twitter going, I actually said that we should have done this. And I went to, the creator of the show and said we need, I mean, like, it's just so weird. Like, I don't know. I part of it, and maybe it's social media, maybe it's a generational thing of like the younger wrestlers. I don't know what it is, but it's like, they just don't even, I mean, they don't even try to hide the fact that like there's anything. Like, it's like you have Ronda Rousey talking about, her reaction to fans booing her. And then you have Becky Lynch talking about like the storylines that she likes and doesn't like. And you have Roman Reigns talking about like, real life stuff. And obviously, he likes being a bad guy. I mean, it's like, you can't even lose yourself in the product anymore, because you just know that it's also fucking fake and everybody's buddy. And all the women from the Women's Royal Rumble are taking pictures together and kumbaya. And it's like, you just can't even lose yourself in this. First, and the perfect contrast, Jeff, the perfect contrast to how fake and, exposed the business is this match here. This match here, it's, Randy Savage really, I mean, he really is fucking crazy. And the Warrior, man, he's kind of crazy too. And Sherry, she's batshit crazy. And Liz, I mean, they broke up. They're not together in real life. I mean, like, you lose yourself in this, and that'll never happen again. You have Paul Heyman on Corey Graves' podcast talking about the storyline that's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And that's why it's like, I'll never be able to enjoy it as much as I did, even during the Attitude Era. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels fucking hated each other. And I had no idea what was going on backstage, but I tuned in on Raw to see what they were going to say about each other.
Because they hated each other. Yep.
Because they hated each other. And you didn't know if it was a work or it was real. Turned out it actually was real. But like, you just didn't even know.
Mhm.
Is Brett really pissed at Vince, or is this a storyline? Is Vince really the owner? I mean, you just didn't know.
Yeah, for the longest time, we didn't know about Vince. So you had a lot happening here. You have Hebner taking an incredible ref bump.
Hey, let me tell you this. I almost think the last time that, like, and maybe I'm missing something, but I feel like the last time where I was like, hey, am I being worked or not, was like the Cena Rock stuff.
Yeah.
The first year. Remember, it's like, dude, wait, did Cena go into business for himself on that? Like, you just didn't know. I still don't even know to this day, right? Like that, but that's the point, is like, you've so few times anymore where you actually can lose yourself in this product. And this is such a great example of where you just didn't know what was going to happen. Is this really the end for Savage? Are him and Liz, are they together in real life? Are they not together? And again, I know some of it's social media. I know some of it's the flow of information now, but there's just a lot of shit you just didn't know, even as early as like the late 90s.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the internet has kind of ruined that. And maybe they have not updated themselves well enough in the internet, era to warrant, the product that's part of the problem. And like you said, their average, and that's the other problem. Like their average age is what, 58, 59 nowadays, like over 60. And so, I mean, hell, they got 30 years on us, and so, and that's your problem. It's like your average, you're not even bringing in younger people in any way. Being on Peacock helps because you're getting eyes on the product, but like people are just, here come big elbow drop.
Wow.
The Warrior, there's one.
Look at the Warrior. He's not moving.
We're going to do this a few times here. Yep.
This place is going crazy. That's two elbows.
There's two. Yep.
This could be the kiss of death.
Warrior just dead, laying there.
And remember, he had never done this before, like multiple elbow drops. He might have done two on Hogan at WrestleMania 5. 3 elbow drops.
Yep.
No. No one's going to be able to get
He's doing sets at this point. Like, Jesus.
How good is this match?
We're watching the end of the Ultimate Warrior.
How good is that?
Four.
Best elbow drop in the history of the business, playing close.
Randy Macho King Savage. Career will go on. And it looks like it's over for the Ultimate Warrior.
Number 5.
By the Macho King.
Hits it.
One, two. No.
Woo.
And look at Hebner. Look at Macho's reaction.
Yep.
The unbelievable look.
Have you ever seen the Warrior look like that?
Yeah, I know. Yep.
Down before?
He is in shock.
Crowd's going nuts. Good Lord.
Absolutely nuts.
Withstood that kind of punishment. A fraction of a second from a
Uh-oh. Here we go.
I mean,
He's getting to the ropes.
This should have been your main event.
Oh, God, yeah.
This should have been for the title.
And it happens in the first half of the card. Like, just crazy. Yeah. Warrior got to the ropes, getting pumped up. Feeling
So,
the power. Yep.
so these two wrestled later on. So these two had another match. So this right here is you're not even gonna believe this. I didn't. This is the 4th highest rated, according to Meltzer, match in Randy Savage's career.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They also had a match that's number 7 all time. Oh, okay. The SummerSlam 92 match, which I can't believe rated that high because it was a schmoz finish.
That part's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the 4th highest rated match in the history of.
Like a Warrior pressing Macho at this point. Here we go.
Don't count Savage out yet.
With the splash. He's on his back.
From this. No. Where are they getting the strength from?
That
Hero
might have been
Hebner up in here.
that might have been the first time anybody ever kicked out Warrior's finish, too. Because he missed a splash against Hogan, but I don't think he ever hit it. I don't think Hogan kicked out of it. The Warrior's face put him off, which is such a crazy look in and of itself. He's looking up to the heavens. He picked out of 5 elbow drops, but then Savage just picked out of his. I mean, this is just out of this world incredible.
Yeah. like you're invested at this point. Like that's such a big part of it too. Of like, us sitting here watching it, like, it's hard to not enjoy the hell out of it. Yeah. Trying to figure it out. Yep.
Incredible. And then from the Macho Man standpoint, from Warrior's standpoint, this was the best match of his career. The second best match of his career was their 92 SummerSlam match. So
yep.
This is peak Warrior right here, man. So obviously we know the Warrior's final match was that 2008 match against Orlando Jordan. If you've never seen it, go back and look at it. I mean, this was 10 years after Warrior's previous last match, and it was pretty damn good. Okay. So, Warrior looked pretty good in 2008 wrestling, and it's just too bad we never got him, for one final match in the WWF. But if you haven't seen that final Warrior match against Orlando Jordan, go and look at it. Savage's final match, Jeff, if you don't remember this, I did, but it was AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, and Randy Savage against Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, 2004 in TNA. What I didn't remember is his previous final match back in 1999, prior to that TNA match, was against Dennis Rodman in a hardcore match.
I don't remember that.
And the reason I'm so into looking at last matches, and by the way, this spot right here, Savage, top rope, Warrior on the guardrail, Savage
missing. Yep.
Warrior going nuts. He's back in control. God, this match is good.
Back and forth. Yeah.
But the reason I'm into these last matches is something I didn't know until I listened this week to an old, not old, but a few weeks old, Eric Bischoff podcast with Conrad talking about TNA. And they were talking about Hulk Hogan. Did you know Hulk Hogan's final match was actually a 6-man tag match in England? I think Bobby Roode was involved. Kurt Angle might have been in it, but it was just like a house show match. I don't even know if there's footage. Yeah.
We should try and find it, but yeah.
Yeah, we should try and find it. But it was just crazy. Some of these legends, their last matches. I mean, very few people have big time last matches. Mm-hmm. Do you know what Ric Flair's last match was?
We probably haven't seen it yet. Yeah,
that's true. Don't even know. Hogan didn't know his last match. Savage, I kind of remembered it, but I mean, it was obviously a terrible final match. So it's just interesting. Very few guys have, classic final matches. So Warrior, he's doing his running shoulder block, and he's knocked Savage out of the ring twice now. He's looking up to the heavens. Heenan and Gorilla on commentary, so you know how good that is. Fans going nuts. Sherry's still in the mix.
Let's see here. It was Impact, not TNA. Okay.
Liz looking worried.
Yeah, and they have been cutting to Elizabeth sitting somewhere. I don't think she's ringside.
No, she was kind of off to the side by the entrance.
Look at this! It's over! Oh my God, no!
Standing on him. There you go. Getting the dub.
I don't know what to say.
I just noticed, I think Trump is sitting front and center too.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
I didn't know he was at WrestleMania 7. Yep. So Warrior's putting his jacket back on when he came out too.
It's a good looking jacket.
Oh, great looking jacket. We're going to leave this on because there's other stuff that still has to happen, and I'll call it out and play some audio for it. Let's go ahead and get into the aftermath.
Oh, it's time for the aftermath.
All right. What'd you think?
So I talk on this show a lot about like the slow burn in New Japan, which I really like. This was one where you gotta even we were talking over the match at the start, but by the end you're invested. And so it needed the slow burn. It needed to take its time, and it got there though. And so as my brother and I will text, occasionally during, especially some of like the longer New Japan matches, we're like, we're heating up, like, now we're cooking, here we go. And so, because we know, like, sometimes that's just what it takes. It takes a little bit extra longer time to get it figured out. So, I thought it was great though. I think that's exactly what happened here. And then we're going to keep telling the story here because now you've got Sherry in the ring screaming at Macho after losing. She had tossed Hebner out and she just going crazy at this point. Yep.
Yeah, so Sherry just beating up Savage.
So good.
I mean, it's incredible.
She ripped off that like attachment on her dress too, like it was nothing. You got cut to Elizabeth kind of watching as well too. Hebner trying to get him out or get both of them out of the ring.
That woman's possessed.
Great job, Bobby.
Just on those.
Yep.
Oh, here she comes.
Yep.
She's going over the barricade. She's on her way to the
Oh boy.
She's in the ring.
Elizabeth inside. She couldn't take it anymore.
Toss Sherry out of the ring. Obviously,
That's a good move. Getting him out of there.
Her look like $1 million.
Great move. Yep.
And keep in mind, these two have been separated on TV. I mean, even into WrestleMania 5, so we're talking like over 2 years.
Yep.
You want to talk about a build-up? I mean, they've been like broken up on TV for over 2 years. Feuded together.
Yep.
Savage doesn't know who it is. Goes to hit her.
Now he sees Elizabeth. He never knew she was crying. He never knew she was here. He doesn't believe it's her.
You can hear him. What are you doing here? Pointing at her. Yep.
Everyone is standing. And I bet they're standing at home.
Sherry Hebner trying to get Sherry just got incredible. She's just a huge part of this match. Like her screaming at Savage from the ringside.
Indeed, Sherry, who was doing a number on it. Elizabeth is crying.
Remember, too, up to this point, remember, he was getting booed like crazy at the start of this match as the heel.
What a heart on that lady. She loves him. She's in love with the Macho King. She's loved him from the beginning.
What a great job, too, by Gorilla and Bobby Heenan.
Savage not sure what to do. This is sickening. Elizabeth with her arms outstretched. Tears
What are they going to do?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Look around. Everybody behind us.
And after starting the match, getting booed to the high heavens, you can hear it for yourself. Yep.
For Randy Savage and Elizabeth.
So how often, you think about this,
Woman and what a man.
you think about how many times is someone so booed at the beginning and so cheered at the end of a match.
Yep.
The ones that come to mind are obviously Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. This one,
Fans crying.
Hogan at WrestleMania 18.
This is better than a love story.
I mean,
Here's the iconic shot of Elizabeth on his shoulder.
I love it. Now why don't you get in there and hug
unbelievable. Unbelievable. God, so good.
Great
So
stuff.
good.
Yep. There you go. More fans crying. Crazy. Yep. They keep cutting. Everybody's crying. Like, that's how you tell a story, though. Like that. If you can get that emotionally invested. Wow. Great stuff. Okay. So, and leaving the ring, of course, Savage going, or both of them. Yep. Savage holding the ropes, or excuse me, Elizabeth holding the ropes for him. Yep. Great stuff. Okay, so now there you go. Macho holding the ropes for her. There it is. That's better. And again, everyone's crying. So excited. Okay. So what happened after this one? We'll kind of get into it a little bit. We're kind of watching Savage still in the middle of the ring here, just kind of pointing at all the fans, getting cheered to as much as possible here. You actually had Warrior taking on the Undertaker after this one. And so this is where you had the, as we've talked about it a little bit before on the show, of course, the Undertaker Warrior getting locked in the coffin in the funeral parlor, being set, trying to break him out of it, of course. And then, kind of Warrior dying in the coffin, if you will. And then, being revived. And then you have Jake the Snake trying to, the knowledge of the dark side and kind of bring him back as well too, and deal with that. And so, in order to get his revenge on the Undertaker. And so, of course, this was as we've talked about before on the show, the tests, for the Warrior, which ended up, actually Roberts turning on him as well too, by the end of this, and showing that the Undertaker, and Paul Bearer had actually been working together the whole time. And of course, the classic line of the never trust a snake. And so really good stuff at this point. So you ended up getting as we have seen and heard multiple times, the feud that never was between Jake the Snake and the Ultimate Warrior. Lots of information on there and out there about that one of just kind of not happening. And so in SummerSlam and that one not taking place, and Jake blaming him for a lot of the woes of what happened at that time, which rightfully so too in a lot of ways. So Macho, though, at this point, actually, I say is retiring, is staying, though, in WWF at this time, which, like we said, kind of leading to Warrior being fired later this year, 1991, and dealing with that. And so Savage, of course, like we said, this was his retirement match on this show. He actually did wrestle a few times as well, too. He actually had some matches in Japan as well. And so not his swan song, but he was still out there, but still some more things happened after the fact, which we'll get into that story a different time. But so where do we rank on the PWI on this one? You had Randy Savage was number 4 this year, and you had Ultimate Warrior was number 11. This was by a long shot the best match of the night. Meltzer kind of writing on this one. This was one super match and even better booked match and angle. Warrior's execution still isn't any good, but Savage covered for him, even taking big bumps from missed moves. Actually, Warrior was pretty bad in the early stages, but got into it, and from a psychological standpoint was actually good in the latter stages. Sherry was her usual animated self. After the bout, Sherry attacks Savage and the boots to him when Elizabeth, who was shown at ringside many times during the match, hit the ring for the save. Elizabeth out of the ring, allowing Randy and Liz to make up, and there were fans legitimately crying. They were so moved by this. I'm not saying this is a knock on Warrior because he wasn't bad here, but if Savage had a real opponent here between the match and the angle, they would have blown the top off the 5-star system. Him giving it 4.25 stars. And so I'll go first. I found this weird.
Well, yeah, let me just say, I think you can make the argument that what was lacking, if you take out Warrior and you put in a quote unquote better worker, a Ricky Steamboat, then you don't have the emotion of that match and the crowd's not into it. Right. So it's like I don't know who you would have put in that spot. Maybe like a Ric Flair, but there weren't a whole hell of a lot of workers in this era, that could have that great of a match. So, I think if you had a better worker, you wouldn't have had as big of a star. So give me the star over, better moves. But I don't understand too. In paragraph 1, Warrior was pretty bad in the early stages, but got into it. And then in paragraph 2, I'm not saying this is a knock on Warrior because he wasn't bad here. And so I don't know if it's, in the role, I don't know, I think that we've learned over time here, Meltzer has never been a big fan of the Warrior. And a lot of people aren't.
even before, the career was over and things like that. And so it just then it's just shitty writing. But to kind of, like you said, he gave it 4.25 stars. For me in this match, like I know we were kind of I was a little lower than you last week. We'll see where you rank on this one, but the storytelling itself, even if you just knew like he used to be with Elizabeth, Sherry is now his manager, and that's it. Like if that is the story that you were going for, like, and then what they told in the ring, and like I said, I'm all for telling the story in the ring. I think that's where it should be told. Even if it was after the match and they were, kind of interacting, I'm going to give this one a 9. I think that it absolutely told a great story. I don't think even that the aftermath on this one, other than the immediate leaving the ring, doesn't even really matter because it's got really messy. The build made a ton of sense, like where the direction they were going with it. And then like the in-ring work was just absolutely phenomenal. Like there's no other way to kind of cut it, not necessarily from a working standpoint, which, I do think guys, like, I don't necessarily agree that, it was great work from Warrior, but also it was absolutely great for what the match needed. And so I'm going to give this one a 9 and roll with that.
Okay.
What do you got?
This is a 10.
I was going to say, I feel like I know where you want to go with this one.
Yeah, to me, this is like as perfect as pro wrestling gets. I got it at a 10. Savage was so good.
Mm-hmm.
In this era, Savage was so good. I mean, do you know how few matches were good the first, 10 WrestleManias?
Mm-hmm.
You can count on one hand the number of great matches that took place from WrestleMania 1 to 10. So, and Savage had, like 2 or 3 of them. So it's just unbelievable. Everything about this was great. This was a pro wrestling clinic. And frankly, yeah, you could say that, hey, if you had a better worker and they're a bit of better match, I just look at it and I'm like, this was the best match of Warrior's career. This is the best he ever did. So when you have the look of the Warrior and the emotion of the Warrior and the crowd behind you, and it's a great match and the story's great and the aftermath is great. I mean, this is just perfect. I love, love, love everything about this. This is pro wrestling at its absolute best. The action's great. The fans are great. The atmosphere is electric. The stage is big. The characters are bigger than life. You don't know what's going to happen. The stuff with Liz, it was perfect. I loved it.
So I was interested too. I went back here. So obviously a 7 is the highest score that Meltzer ever gave him. He made the comment about like blowing the roof off the 5 stars. Like to this point, there had never been a WWF 5-star match. There was some WCW ones, a couple, of course, Flair and Steamboat getting a 6 as well too. That was a house show, of course. Flair and Terry Funk had one as well too. But then I'm interested, before we kind of wrap up here, like, so the first 5-star match that Meltzer ever gave to WWF was Razor and Shawn at WrestleMania 10. How would the landscape have changed if he had given this one? If you say, he say he blows it off. What if he did give this one a 6? How do you think things would have been different?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Meltzer would have given this a 6, it would have changed the perception of each guy. Mm-hmm. I think Savage would be looked at as one of the greatest in-ring workers of all time. He's not. And I think he should be, especially when you look at what he did in an era when very little of the wrestling was good.
Mm-hmm.
Great matches with DiBiase, one of Hogan's best matches ever, the best match that Warrior ever had. The Steamboat match. I mean, I thought the Flair WrestleMania 8 match was great too. So I think Savage is a better worker than Ric Flair. I think Savage is the best worker of this era. Then you throw in the character, the fact he was an incredible babyface, an incredible heel, a true world champion, the look, the character, everything else. I think Randy Savage is one of the most underrated performers ever. To me, he's a Mount Rushmore. I'll take him over The Rock any day of the week. Better in-ring worker, better character, more iconic moments. So I think from Savage's standpoint, it would have given him more credibility. And I think he deserves that credibility. Now with Warrior, oh, he's a shitty performer. Oh, he's just a jacked up dude. He still had some pretty good matches. And was he dangerous in the ring? Sure. So was Goldberg. So were other guys. Some guys are stiff. So I think it would have really helped the Warrior as well. So I think this match is completely underrated. I think it's about as good as pro wrestling gets. And I think both guys in their own right are, a little underrated, and maybe history isn't as kind to them as it should be, specifically Randy Savage. That's all I got for you.
I dig it. Absolutely. All right. Good stuff. Well, let's send them home happy. What do we got here?
Plug our shit real quick.
Yeah. So for starters, I haven't said it in a while. Hey, let's give us some 5 stars. Spotify's got ratings now. Let's kind of throw some of that good stuff on there right now. It's WrestleMania season. It's good things to be excited about. And so how about 5 stars on Spotify, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to us, doesn't matter. Make sure to give us a good comment here. Also, of course, we got to plug that merchandise, manscaped.com. Payoff 20 is our promo code. You get 20% off, free shipping. Tom and I talk about it every week. It's got just some of the greatest products out there when you're trying to take care of yourself. It's what it should be all about. And so whether you're just you're grooming the man garden, whether you just want to dip your toe in the pool and just get the nose hair trimmer, whether, you're just looking for some better razor blades, maybe you just keep it real simple. Just get the chapstick. I got it not too long ago, the lip balm, that's out there as well too. Maybe just smelling fresh. They've got good stuff. It smells great, using their body wash, shampoo, all that. So check out the store, manscaped.com. Make sure you're using that promo code payoff20. Support the show. We'll keep bringing you those ads because you guys keep buying. And so we appreciate that. Payoff20 at manscaped.com.
All right. Great episode. One of my favorites ever.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Loved it.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on an all new episode of The Payoff.